Alright guys, now the new Kalibrgun Cricket II Tactical 60 WTC 30 cal comes to us from the Czech Republic. It's regulated, it's capable of a 300 bar fill, it offers reversible side lever cocking, and it takes advantage of an unusually mannered Lothar-Walther 12 groove 29.9 inch twist 600mm non-choked barrel, of which we'll discuss further in this review. This unit came to me for a thorough testing by way of Airguns of Arizona / Precision Airgun Distribution, Kalibrgun's new US distributor, and I'll be reviewing it as is, no modifications made. The TAC 230 measures a stout 34 inches long, thanks to its bullpup design, but don't let that fool you into thinking it's a feathery field pointer. At 8.5 pounds full of air naked and 10 pounds shoot ready, I foresee the masses classifying this Kali as a more appropriate field, prairie, and bench gun. And utilized from there, it ought to get a lot of people excited. It certainly did me. For those seeking a more nimble experience in a TAC 2, the more compact 45 series might serve one better. The lineup is available in 177, 22, 25, and 30, with barrel caliber dictating bottle size and overall gun length. There are also Cricket II, Capybara, and Argus models to consider. Price points span $1,600 to $1,800, and the warranty here in the United States is 3 years. The 30 cal's 500cc labeled carbon fiber bottle is deceiving. In actuality, it's a 613cc system to include the extra 113 cc's of reserve locked away in the cylinder downstream of the bottle. What that means to you is that there are 60 84 foot-pound shots on tap for you on a 300 bar fill, and 46 available shots for those of you that don't like to puff north of 250 bar. This is out of the box with no changes made to the aft positioned external hammer spring adjuster, which arrived within 1/8 turn of being maxed out. Efficiency and tune are excellent as is, boasting an extreme spread of just 14 and a standard deviation of 3.5 across the 60 shots. The gun seemed to come off reg at around 130 bar, and any straying from the OEM hammer spring settings threw the tune into a tailspin. This wasn't the case with Michael's 22 cal TAC 2 45 series, however, suggesting that you may have more flexibility in tuning the other calibers. For the 30 cal, the hammer spring adjuster is best left alone. The gun also takes advantage of a shrouded and baffled barrel with 1/2 inch UNF threads gifted to us up at the important end, weaver rails above and below with the bottom one being properly rigid, a new starboard side manometer that was dead on for me, minimalist but comfy and ergonomic alderwood lumber, laminate, synthetic, and carbon fiber forthcoming, onboard magazine storage with two 10-round metal magazines, a rubber butt pad that's adjustable for height, a long, square-shaped poly cheek piece that was surprisingly comfortable, a comparatively lethargic magazine control lever, and a well-protected dual-stage match trigger with manual safety that's somewhat adjustable. That is, if you can figure out how. So, join me as we take a deeper look into the performance of this divergence of an airgun. AEAC is made possible by Air Venturi, Hawk Optics, Diana Airguns, FX Airguns, Daystate, Air Arms, Sports Match Rings UK, H&N Sport, Aztec Optics, and JSB Predator Pellets. And you guys know the best way to thank them. For me, the TAC 2 was just a different kind of gun. Its barrel behaved in a way that I had not yet experienced as an airgun reviewer, wanting its pellets up around 915 to 920 to properly stabilize. And I cross-checked this oddity across 4 types of pellet, alternating back and forth between 905 and 920 feet per second. All 4 pellets wobbled and hooked their way down to the 50-yard target at 905. And at 915 to 920, I could literally see the wobble tighten up and the hook go away. But what's even weirder yet is that wobble continued to tighten up and stability continued to enhance between the 50 and 100-yard marker. The bummer of it all is that the external hammer spring adjuster is maxed out at 920-ish with a 44 grain, and dialed back to just 905, the tune went to pieces with wildly fluctuating extreme spreads. So in the end, I was left wanting 2 things that I couldn't have. I wanted to be able to try the 44 grain Diabolo shaped pellet between 850 and 880, the usual sweet spot for that pellet. And I also wanted to be able to try it up around 930, 940 to see how much speed I could get away with. And something tells me I would have been able to get a little bit more out of it. So if you're not the type that likes to fiddle, don't worry about it. Just buy it and enjoy it. It is a true tech driver. But if you're the sort that likes to have control over different types of ammo with your tune, I wasn't able to have that with the 30 cal. But Michael did have tuning success with the 45 series in 22, so perhaps the other calibers will allow you to tinker.
77 cc's.
The other toughie was Slugs. Theoretically, they should have worked well with a 30 cal's non-choked barrel. And when the winds were at 0, they did. But as soon as the winds came up to 3 to 6, they began to destabilize and wobble and hook uncontrollably, defeating the whole purpose of using a slug. Once again, though, I suspect that if there were room in that hammer spring to be able to push them faster, I probably could have gotten them to stabilize out. But to a lot of ya, it may not have mattered anyway. The slugs didn't get along with the OEM magazine, flinging 1 in 4 on average. But hand loading was a different story. Again, so long as winds were at 0. But then again, with pellets shooting this good at 3 to 6 out of the Cali, you may not even miss them. To my regular audience, please forgive this extra time allotted for a walk of validation. I've had some internet trolls as of late challenging my integrity, process, and authenticity. So I'll speed through this next bit as quick as I can for you. Thank you for your patience and high level of trust. They're both greatly appreciated. That top group's at 905, that bottom one's at 920, 50 yards to target. The two topmost groups in the photograph were also at 920, and were taken the day prior on an improperly adjusted long rolling trigger brake. So guys, with these bullpup designs and the trigger blade being up here by the grip, and the mechanism and sear being in the rear here by the butt pad, and there being some sort of metal linkage in between, the online reputation this design has kind of had over the years is that it can give the end user kind of a vague trigger feel that's less than desirable. Now, I've been fortunate enough over the last whatever many number of years to be able to have reviewed 4 or 5 different caliber guns, and with this brand that's never been my experience. I've always gotten a nice, clean, crisp, dual stage trigger that is certainly match grade and is also adjustable to some extent. Now with this one, for the first couple of 100 shots of learning the gun and doing shot charts and these kinds of things, that's what I got with it, a nice clean 2-stage trigger. And then somehow in the middle of my filming, that all of a sudden just went away, and my trigger brake kind of turned into a long, rolling, sweeping second stage let off. So I referred to the owner's manual, and there was nothing in there on how to address it. So what I wound up doing is pulling this back piece of lumber and kind of peering down there at the trigger mechanism, and started fiddling with the one trigger adjustment screw, so I thought that I could find in that whole assembly. And as it worked out, turning that screw about a turn counterclockwise restored that excellent trigger experience I had previously had, which had it braking at about a pound. So after having gone through that and recovered my good trigger, the first stage take up is now clean and light again with a good resettable reset, comes up against a firm stop, and with just a little bit more pressure on that blade and no creep at all, it lets off awesomely. Boom. 12.7 ounces. The TAC-2 is built like a tank and reminds me of the over-engineering seen in Edgun and in Airgun technologies. So if you like the feel of those brands, you'll probably like the Kalibrgun too. It's exceptionally rigid, which is good for toughness, of course, but it also makes it really easy to shoot well. And this one is among the least hold-sensitive PCPs I've ever experienced. In other words, it's really easy to shoot well and will make just about anybody look good. I got the most out of it with a moderately weighted shoulder and cheek, a firm lateral grip with the only downward force being the weight of my forearm, and a very gradual pressurizing of the trigger face until it just went off, with a rock-steady, over-exaggerated follow-through. Cocking to the rear is moderately weighted and fairly smooth, and is surprisingly light for the gun's 84 foot-pounds. There's a definite metal-to-metal sensation as you're moving through the stroke. Accompanied by an increase of force and a clunk at the very end as you index the mag. Going forward is light and precise. The TAC-2's rigidity, clean snappy firing cycle, and short dwell time all contribute to its superb accuracy and make it really, really fun to shoot, with its sub-pound well-mannered trigger being icing on the cake. I feel like a lot of people are really gonna like this, so long as you can get comfy with its few quirks. We're going for another 50-yard stroll, guys. Gotta keep them trolls happy. The troll stroll. The bottommost group's at 905. The one we just shot's at 920. 50 yards to target. The two topmost groups in the photograph were also at 920, and were taken the day prior on an improperly adjusted long rolling trigger brake. Alright guys, you're going to want to be made familiar with Kalibrgun's magazine load-up system. And the reason I say that is because it's not going to be for everyone. It's not bad, it's not junky, it's nothing like that. It's just not fast, and it's going to take a couple of hands, which means you're going to want to have the gun on a table, a bench, proned out in a prairie, that kind of thing. It's probably not going to be the type of thing you want to be doing like while you're standing around, the wind's blowing, it's cold outside, you can't move your fingers well, you got gloves on, that sort of thing. And you'll see what I mean here in a minute. But now, the first thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and cock the gun. And with the gun cocked, you're not going to be able to load the magazine into the breech here. And the reason that is because there's a guide pin that runs through the center of the mag that's in the way. So what I got to do is I got to go ahead and move that pin out of the way. And the way I do that is I go up, back, and down on this little guide pin control mechanism. Now I can freely move the magazine through the breech in whichever direction I so desire. Kind of reminds me of those days of Connect 4. Don't know how many of you are old enough to remember that, but my wife and I still play now and then, and we have a great time doing that. Anyway, you take your mag, and what you're going to want to do is kind of center it in the breech. You're going to want to hold on to it, again, so it doesn't just roll out on you. And you're going to want to go up and forward, or at least just up on this little guide pin mechanism, control mechanism here. And then I'm going to start moving the magazine around, and what's going to happen is that guide pin's going to punch through the center of the mag because it's under spring tension right now. And there it goes. You saw it kind of fell into place. And now I can index the magazine or clock it left, right, myself, whatever, to make sure that that pellet's lined up properly with the breech. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close the cocking arm, all right? Now there's two forward positions, or there's rather a center position and a forward position on this control arm back here. And when it's in the center position as I cock the gun, the magazine is not going to clock. It's not going to rotate. That's going to be an advantage to, let's say, you've cocked the gun and you've chambered around, you're carrying it around in the field, you want to decock the gun, and when you go to cycle it again to be ready to go, you know, in addition to the manual safety type of thing, it's not going to double feed on you, all right? Now, when I take that pin and go up and forward, now, each time I cycle the cocking arm, it's going to go ahead and index that magazine for you and clock it so that you can be properly feeding pellets. Now, to take the magazine out, you're going to want to hold on to it, because when I cock the gun and come back on this pin, it's going to want to fall out one way or the other. But there's the cocking. Let's see what happens here. Whoop, and it just falls out to the left when I bring that pin up and back. So yeah, there's a little bit to that. Certainly don't detract from your ownership experience, because it becomes fluid and natural as you get to learn the gun. Certainly, as you saw me doing the 50-yard groups, load up was not a big deal, but certainly not going to be for everyone, and definitely probably not something you're going to want to be doing when you're standing around and don't have both hands free and a gun in an armpit and all that sort of craziness. Today I'm shooting a brand new scope from MTC. It's called the Copperhead F2. F is in Foxtrot, and depending on which one you go with, will run you between $430 and $480. The less expensive of the two, I believe, is a 3-12. This one is a 4-16 by 44, and it measures just 12 inches long. And I gotta say, this is my new favorite of the MTC lineup, which previously was the Mamba Ultralight until this came out. I actually like it more than their more expensive models. Its AO dial rotates with less tension, and its turret clicks are actually more precise. And I feel like it did everything I needed it to do, either the same or better. In being that it's just so small and seemingly of good quality, pushed me right over the edge. It's got all the important stuff too. Glass-etched reticle, multi-coated lenses, 10-yard minimum focus, illuminated reticle, 30mm tube, blah blah blah. What I appreciated most was its bright glass and AMD2 reticle. AMD standing for Advanced Mil Dot, meaning it'll have plenty of up and down and left and right for you. And that it's a second focal plane reticle, so its size will stay fixed throughout the range of magnification. Holding it up, I'm running Sports Match's elevation adjustables, which are another favorite, and I've got them dialed in too. But before doing that, I did verify that the Copperhead has got plenty of clicks to get on target at 50 and 100 with this gun, further validating its goodness. That is smoke you're seeing there, guys. They're burn clear in the field behind the target, and it was getting thick. The group we just shot was at 920, the top one was at 905, 50 yards to target. And the wobble was pretty bad on both of them, guys. The two topmost groups in the photograph were also at 920, and were taken the day prior on an improperly adjusted long rolling trigger brake. So guys, Kalibrgun's doing some pretty cool stuff when it comes to onboard air supply and their Cricket II Tactical here. What's obvious is that there's a big, pretty, shiny carbon fiber bottle up here at the nose end of the gun. But that bottle holds 500 cc's of air at 300 bar, and that's a lot. But what you also get is this reservoir between the bottle and the regulator that's built into the gun that holds an additional 613 cc's of air. So what that means to you is that you're carrying around 613 cc's of air at 300 bar, which lends itself very favorably to the 60 regulated shots at 84 foot-pounds that this gun is tromping through the field with. To refill the gun, you pull out this little plug right here, which is made of poly, and I'm not really crazy about this. It does have kind of a cool factor, and it fits with refinement, and it's not like it's gonna fall out or anything. It's in there nice and tight, but I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this or not. But there it goes. This thing's blown off of the table more than once over the past couple of weeks. So I just feel like if you're not paying attention, it's something that you'll easily be able to lose. Now, testing is ongoing with the Airgun Easy Fill, which is basically just an air chuck for your air gun. And what's so nice about it is my fill source is over there, And I'm not having to reach over there to bleed the line or throttle the yoke or any of that stuff. It's done right here at the source, and I'll show you how. So to fill up the Kalibrgun, all you're going to do is squeeze on the little accelerator pedal here on the chuck and begin filling. Now, as soon as I let go, it automatically purges the air, and I can just pull the chuck out right here instead of having to go back to the tank. Now the gauge is on this side, so as I fill, I'm going to have to watch on this side of the gun. But again, that Airgun Easy Fill gives you the flexibility where you can move about the gun and fill as you so desire from where you so desire. Whether this is under the table or jammed in a backpack or whatever. And I've got to say, I've really been enjoying it over the past couple of weeks with this gun and when I used it in the review prior with the Catron. What's also nice about the Easy Fill is it doesn't fill too quickly or too slowly. It kind of gives you that nice, even, steady fill speed where you're not superheating the air supply in your gun, where that's going to mess with shot count as you get into a cooler environment and that air cools and compresses. And as you can see, I can just kind of fine tune here, make sure I'm up there around the 300 bar mark, and just yank out that device. It's super cool. And don't forget to replace your plug before it blows off your shooting table. Slugs out of this barrel were a real mixed bag for me. When the winds were at 0 and the barrel was clean, 50-yard performance was adequate, despite wobble and hook being occasionally present. I feel like they were streaking the rifling somewhere, because after using them I could pull lead with a cleaning patch and the pellets weren't giving me that. Further backing that up, I could see their groups open up post-clean. Here's 10 essays in a row that I filmed after the 10 hybrids. You can literally see the groups consecutively widening, and all 4 were considerably wider than the test groups I made before the cameras were rolling. So whether it was wind or fouling, I'll never know the answer. But what I believe I do know the answer to is that there's not enough meat on that hammer spring to push them to the right speeds anyway. Slugs will often wobble until you get them to the right velocity, and that's been present to one degree or another all along. I can also definitively tell you that they do much better when hand-loaded as opposed to being shot out of the magazine. I suspect that has something to do with the way the magazine's O-ring bands interface with the slug when they're being chambered into the barrel, but who really knows? Anyway, I tried all the NSAs, and what it liked best were the 43.8 grains, as well as the FX hybrids. And I would have loved to have been able to try the new Zans, but I just couldn't get my hands on them fast enough. But they're all here now, so you can expect them in the culls going forward. So a little off topic, but if you'd like access to some limited production JSB apparel, I'll leave you a link on how to get some in the video description down below. JSB reached out to me and wanted me to put this in front of you. They've got about 600 pieces of each in an assortment of t-shirts and hoodies. And once they're gone, they're gone. So help yourself to the link. It'll take you straight to the website where you can find them. And your purchase will pay me a little commission for having heard about it through AEAC. So spend wildly. Another destabilizing variable on this gun was the aftermarket 0dB moderator. The Kali just didn't like it, and I tried it across all 5 pellets. In every instance, it induced hook and wobble that was detectable at 100 yards, opening an otherwise 1-inch group to about 7 inches. Experienced air gunners are going to tell you that this is just a trial and error thing. You just got to do your own homework to see what your gun likes. And to you keyboard warriors out there, I've had a lot of 0 dB 100-yard success on a lot of other guns and a lot of other videos. Just have yourself a look around. The group on top's the one we just filmed. The one on the bottom's the one I'm about to film. 50 yards to target. Maxed out at 900, there was still quite a bit of instability with these slugs, guys. My guess is that they're going to want to be pushed faster to stabilize out. Now, in regards to the 84 foot-pounds that the 30 cal is making, I've come away really kind of surprised at what a good job the OEM hardware is doing at quieting that down. I'm trying to think back to any comparably powered air gun that I've been able to review in recent history, and nothing comes to mind as far as being quieter. Now, I went ahead and slid the shroud off, had a peek inside, and the reason I think this one's doing so well is because from about here on up, it seems to be filled with a series of quieting baffles. And then from here to the rear, it's just a big empty cavity. And I suspect those two systems are working together to just really do a better than great job at keeping this gun nice and quiet. Now, if you want to try to go for better, you can, as Kalibrgun kindly gives you 1/2 inch UNF threads up here at the end of their shroud so that you can add an additional aftermarket moderator of your choosing, like this 0 dB here. But in my experience, as is often the case, once you've already got an 84 or 85 foot-pound gun quieted into the 80 or so decibel neighborhood, there's not a whole lot of meat left on the bone for you to further be able to quiet that unit down. Shooting the TAC-2 30 cal at 100 yards was blissfully easy. Just take it out of the box and put some kind of JSB pellet in it. Even lackadaisically checking where my dope was at came out pretty good. Wind drift was minimal, and I filmed 2 groups to double check the results. And this gun put 7 out of 10 into a sub 1/2 inch hole. And that's with non-sorted ammo. If you're new to my channel, we like to hold monthly airgun giveaways with the Airgun Nation Forum and our mutual sponsors. And entering is as easy as picking a random number and posting it over at the Airgun Nation Forum. For details on how, watch through to the end of the vid. One of you is going to win the actual gun I used in the making of this video. And much, much more. The bottom group's the one we just shot. The one on top is the one I shot and filmed just prior. 100 yards to target. Laying under the stool there, you can see my 3-shot holdover check. Pellet stability was good all along the way. Well, that is all for today, guys. And special thanks to Kalibrgun, Airguns of Arizona, MTC Optics, Sports Match Rings UK, 0 dB moderators, Omega Tanks, and Easy Fill for getting all of this and more into my hands to review for you. You guys know the best way to thank them for that one. Now from here, y'all want to head on over to the Airgun Nation Forum so that you can participate in the discussion threads and the giveaway thread on the Kalibrgun. I'll leave you links on how to get there in the description down below. So with that, I'm Steve Shalley. Thank you guys so much for watching, and good luck, everyone.